Our next guest has spent the last season behind the bench after a playing career in the professionals. Pleased to welcome Ben Sexton, the assistant coach of the Ottawa Senators. Ben, thanks for joining on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
A former Clarkson captain and assistant captain in the professionals. We'll start with your college time at Clarkson. You were named the assistant captain as a sophomore, which is a big feat in its own. You also spent 2 seasons as the captain. What were some of the most important leadership experiences that you took away from being named leader so young? And then also, what were some of the core values that you adapted into your style while you were the team's captain there for 2 years?
For me, I learned a lot from guys that I played with over the years, whether it was in the junior ranks or even at my time at Clarkson. So I had great role models, picked up different pieces and different values from each guy. For me, any sort of leadership role, I really think you just have to be yourself. And if you're not, guys see through it. Fortunate enough to play with Mark Borbiewski for a couple of years, a guy that I learned a ton from, still one of my best friends to this day. Brandon DeFazio at Clarkson as well. Completely different leaders. Mark was more, he held guys to a high standard. Not that Brandon didn't, but Brandon, brought the group together away from the rink. For me, I think in any sort of leadership role, you have to set the standard, and the old cliche that you have to lead by example. I think that's so important. I think you can hold your group and your peers to a standard. If you're willing to put in the work and they see that, you're not just, talking the talk, but you're walking the walk. And, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of great leaders, even in the professional ranks, that have kind of translated to, my next career now in coaching. And, you pick up little pieces along the ways that kind of form who you are as a person and leader.
Your success translated right into the professionals. You were named the assistant captain in Providence for the 2014-15 season, and that was just your second year as a full professional. You also had 2 seasons as the assistant captain in Bellevue. How were you able to quickly adapt that leadership style from the NCAA into the professionals while you're learning how to play in the pros as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything really changes whether you're managing a team at a software company or you're playing in the professional ranks or the college ranks. At the end of the day, it's leadership, and like I said, like I learned a lot from my mentors over the years, and I was just myself. And turning pro is probably a little bit later than the average guy coming from major junior or to Europe. I was probably a little bit more mature, than some of them. So, being a first year pro, but being a little bit older, kind of, I had some experiences that some guys didn't, and I was probably further along in the maturation process as a player and a person than some of those young guys. So, for me, nothing really changed. I was just myself, and I was very fortunate to be given that responsibility, young into my pro career.
In your 4th season pro, you made your NHL debut against the Carolina Hurricanes, being pulled up to the Ottawa Senators. Talk about the moment stepping onto the biggest stage as a player, and also being your hometown team where you're from, Ottawa, growing up in Ottawa, and then you put on the Sens jersey for the first time as a pro.
Yeah, obviously, it was really a dream come true. It sounds cliche, but as a young kid, you always dream of playing in the NHL. And for a kid that grew up in Ottawa, the Sens, I looked up to ever since I can remember. So for me to, play in the NHL for my hometown team, it's something I'm, very proud of, very grateful. There's a lot of sacrifice over the years with my parents lugging me and my brothers around rinks all over the country, and the sacrifice that they made for me and my brothers to play at a high level. Playing those NHL games was just kind of a icing on the cake for all the sacrifices that they made. And it wasn't an easy road. I stuck with it, made my NHL debut at a little bit later on in my career than most guys do, but I never gave up, and I was luckily and fortunate enough to be rewarded for it.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. From your time playing and even into your coaching now, what's one trait that a common fan might not see on a night to night basis from a player's perspective that makes a huge impact for the success of the team?
Just the amount of sacrifice and work that goes in behind the scenes in order to have individual and team success. I think, you know, you talk to the average hockey fan, they think that guys just kind of show up in the rink, put on the skates, and God reached down and touched them with God given talent. And there is a lot of guys that have that God given talent, but the sacrifice, the time, the dedication to working at your craft, specifically at the NHL. You see how much these guys are dedicated to their craft and being the best. I don't think the average person really truly understands or appreciates.
At what point after your retirement did you decide that you wanted to stick with the game as a coach rather than player?
So I had some run-ins with some injuries. I had concussion issues started in junior and throughout my college career and into the pros. And I was unfortunately my career ended. I got concussed in Pittsburgh in training camp the year of the COVID ended up hitting. But I was actually very fortunate that when the doctors did shut me down, I was in Wilkes-Barre at the time, and Mike Vellucci was unbelievable for me. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Obviously, anytime that a player's career comes to an end, it's obviously a tough time. It's nothing that you ever expect would come. And he was unbelievable for me. He understood what I was going through. He wanted to open his door and help me what was going to be next for me. And he afforded me the opportunity to kind of get my feet wet into the coaching and just to see if I liked it. And, like I said, he opened up, a door that I'm so grateful that he did, because I realized right away that I wanted to coach, and he allowed me to kind of, sink my teeth into different projects, different areas of the game while he was, kind of teaching me the way of the pro game from a coaching perspective. And I'm very appreciative of that staff that year in Wilkes-Barre for allowing me to kind of see what I wanted to do next. And once I got into it, I was hooked. Everyone says it's the next best thing to playing, and it really is.
How much of your playing career translated into your coaching career? And do you have any specific examples of things that you've noticed as a player that really helped you transition into that coaching position?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like it's all about relationships, and obviously you have to have a true understanding of the game. You have to have a grasp of X's and O's and tactics. But as a coach, it really is about you know building relationships, managing people, trying to strive to maximize individual talents. And every individual now more so than ever is quite different. And I think as a coach, the faster that you can grow a relationship and tap into their potential. And the old saying, they don't care what you know until they know you care, is so true. No matter what level you're coaching, if these players see how much you care about them and your passion for helping them individually, I think it just makes your job that much easier as a coach.
You're not a very old guy. Talk about some of the difficulties maybe of transitioning to the coaching stage when there's guys you've played with. And was it easier than you thought, or was it a little bit difficult the first time you stepped behind that bench?
Yeah, I mean, like even to this day, like I coach some guys that are older than me, and when I first started, I think it actually probably helped me having some older guys that I played with, whether they're my age or a little bit older, because they knew who I was as a person, and they know how much I cared about them as an individual when I was playing with them. So nothing really changed from that perspective with a player to coach relationship. And I think there was an underlying understanding and mutual respect that we both had jobs to do, whether it was me coaching or them playing. And to this day, like Claude Giroux is a perfect example. He's potentially going to be a Hall of Fame player in the National Hockey League. He's a couple of years older than me, but the respect that I have for him and the respect that he has for me, I think it goes a long way. I just think you have to be yourself. I don't think it matters how old you are or how much experience you have. If you care about them and you care about the success of the team, and you have an understanding of the game and you're willing to do anything to get them and yourself better, I think it goes a long way.
Last year, you took over the bench as the Ottawa Senators assistant coach. Again, going back to being an Ottawa native, did that have more meaning than the first time you played as a player? And what were kind of the differences from your first coaching experiences adapting to being on the highest stage once again and now being a full-time coach in the NHL?
Yeah, I mean, it was completely different, experience for me as a kid. Like I said earlier, you just dream about growing up and playing the NHL, and then I was able to do it in my hometown team. I never thought I would ever be a coach, let alone in the National Hockey League, let alone with my hometown team. So obviously, it's a little bit of a surreal experience being behind the bench. Um, you know, I was very fortunate, pretty young into my coaching career. DJ Smith's a guy, that believed in me and gave me an opportunity. I'll forever be grateful for that. I learned so much from him and that staff that we had. And I'm looking forward to working with this new staff now. And for it being in my hometown, it's just icing on the cake.
There's obviously a ton of different pieces involved in running an organization. You've got the general manager and the front office that have some objectives that sometimes might not be the same as the coaching staff. How do you balance some of the wants and needs of the front office in terms of player development and player movement with your team's with your staff's goal of just going out there and winning hockey games?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting question. I mean, it's kind of what we preach to our players is control you can control, and at the end of the day, managers they're the boss. I think we're really lucky in Ottawa. We have a really collaborative group with management and the coaches, and we're constantly sharing ideas and sharing information and reflecting on different players through different situations. So for me, I don't know anything different because just being a young coach, just seeing the relationships that upper management's built with our coaching staff on a day-to-day basis. I think there's a lot of unity there. So I wouldn't say that we're ever really on different pages. So I don't think you'd have to manage that. But at the end of the day, like managers manage and coaches coach, and you try to collaborate as best you can to ultimately achieve, the ultimate goal in the National Hockey Leagues, and that's winning Stanley Cups.
Management went out and got a goaltender now this year. A couple new faces joining the lineup as we look forward to the next season. This team that's been on the cusp of cracking into the playoffs for the last few years here. What are the expectations you have and some things that you expect to improve as we look forward to next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve and our management staff have done a great job bringing in some complementary pieces to our group to help with our young core. And, our young core is going to be another year older. We have some veteran guys that can come in and help our young group. As expectations, I think anyone in the National Hockey League would tell you that everyone expects to make the playoffs. Are we there yet? Time will tell. And I know our staff and our group, we don't really focus on that. We're kind of process driven and focus on getting better every day. And if we do that with, the players and the people that we have in that locker room, and if it gets us to the playoffs, then, that's ultimately the goal. And you just have to get in to give yourself a chance. But I wouldn't say there's any expectations to make the playoffs, win Stanley Cups. That doesn't really matter to us. We're process oriented, and if we take care of things on a day-to-day basis, we should set ourselves up to ultimately, hopefully, to make the playoffs.
Looking forward to your coaching career coming up. What are some goals that you hope to attain behind the benches now as your NHL career progresses?
I mean, for me individually, nothing really changes. It's the same thing that we preach to our group about being process oriented. Like, just try to get better. Try to help players get better on a day-to-day basis, and continue to learn, continue to grow. Obviously, been very fortunate to, in my young coaching career, be around a lot of good coaches and mentors. With DJ and Travis and Jack Capuano and our staff coming this year. For me, I don't really look at the end goal. I just kind of take it day by day, try to get myself and the group around us better on a daily basis. And whatever happens in the future is going to happen.
You've said about the feeling of being a kid looking up to the NHL players and dreaming about that moment. Now being in that position where you've been around the league for a full year and plenty to come, what advice can you give kids who are looking up to you and guys who are in similar positions trying to pursue a future in hockey, whether that goes juniors, college, the route that you took, trying to reach the professionals, or maybe on a coaching administrative side?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there's a couple things. You have to have a true passion for the game. It's just too hard to even get to a junior level or a college level, let alone a pro level, if you don't truly have an underlying love for the game. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot along the way. And I think I mentioned it kind of earlier, I don't think some people realize how hard it is and how hard you have to work to get there. So I think if you can combine, your hard work with your passion for the game, then your talents and, whatever your ceiling is as an individual, whether it's a player or manager or coach, you're ultimately going to achieve your ceiling when you combine, the sacrifice and the hard work together.
You mentioned the importance of hard work there. Can you talk to me a little bit, whether it's been from your playing career, your coaching career, some of the guys that you've noticed that, go into practice every day 110% and really don't take any sort of day off and really have earned what they've achieved so far?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Borowiecki comes to mind right away. Obviously, been around him a long time. He was a training partner of mine. Just our ability to push each other on a day-to-day basis, leave no stone unturned. I think about a guy that I played in the minors with Teddy Bluger in Vancouver. He's a guy that truly woke up every day, was process oriented. He got better every day. He pushed the needle, and he's made himself obviously an everyday NHLer, and he's a Stanley Cup champion. And just seeing it from the other side now as a coach, and some of these guys that are so driven to be the best make your job so easy, and we have a lot of them in Ottawa, that continue to push the needle, on a daily basis to hopefully be the best that there is. And some of those guys are stars in Ottawa. And for me, one of the guys that sticks out is Jake Sanderson, just how he approaches every day, and just his sacrifice and willingness to put in the time, to put in the work, how dialed he is when he's on the ice, when he's away from the rink, is something that I really respect. And that goes for the rest of our leaders that we have in Ottawa. And we have a good group, which makes it exciting. It makes my job a lot easier and more enjoyable.
You mentioned how you really like the lead by example style of play. Brady Tkachuk, who's your captain, sets that example quite a bit. And the Tkachuk family has kind of taken the hockey world by storm. With the veteran group that you guys have and the leaders in that room, talk a little bit about what it's like working with those stars from a coaching standpoint as you get to go do that every day.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be able to do it every day. Obviously, Brady's a captain. He's an unbelievable human being. I think he was raised, by his mom and dad the right way. You can see the way that he interacts with people away from the rink, and I've heard nothing but great things about his brother as well. And Brady's a unicorn in this game, and we're so lucky to have him in Ottawa, leading our team hopefully to the promised land. And he's another guy that puts in the work every single day, and he cares so much, and he has so much raw emotion and passion for the game that um, obviously us as a coaching staff really value, and I know his teammates do as well.
Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time here and making the schedule work around my travel as I'm sitting in an airport here and Matt's in the office working from out in Boston. But we really appreciate the time and coming to sit down with our show here. Greatly thanked, and we look forward to seeing the success coming up in Ottawa and hopefully a playoff berth coming very soon. It's extremely well deserved for you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.